So welcome to the Cancer Fighting Cooking Demo. And we're so blessed to have Adrienne help us. And I'm Chris. If you don't know, I'm the nutrition educator that I've been here for a while. And so what we do is this cancer fighting demo is really just cooking out of this cookbook from Rebecca Katz. And it's marvelous because what she does is the first 30 pages is really helping people go through treatment, helping them navigate their taste buds and their taste and their energy level and their appetite. So we've just fell in love with her. And then she started offering classes online. And so I reached out to her and she said she would be happy to have us enjoy the sessions, right? So that's what we're going to do. And as you know, looks like we're going to be enjoying not just for us, but for others. So I'm thrilled because you made it out on a snowy day. Was it difficult for anybody?
No.
Yes? Kathy says yes?
Yeah, last week we couldn't make it out of our little valley, but today my son just barely made it out.
Oh my gosh, I know. Not easy, right? And then tonight, I think tomorrow we're having some frigid temperatures. But that might be good because it might get rid of some of these bugs that are floating around, right? Oh, so many people are getting sick. So I'm excited because today we're going to really talk on harvest bowls. Not just soup and how to make soup, but we're going to actually make a harvest bowl. So has anybody ever had a harvest bowl, made a harvest bowl for yourself or your family? Yes? Okay. Kathy, what have you had?
We've done lettuce with grilled chicken and grilled, roasted, all kinds of roasted vegetables. I roasted it in the oven.
Okay. A lot of roasted vegetables and chicken, peppers. Okay. Great. Well, that's exactly, if you see your handout, that's exactly what we're going to do. And you know what? I wouldn't mind stealing one of those handouts as well. Thank you. Then we're going to have the chance to watch Rebecca Katz make soup. Now this is a two-part class. Was anybody here last month when we made the soups? Yes? Okay, so a couple of us. Would you mind if we showed that video on how to, we're actually going to modify it instead of how to make soup, where she's going to show us how to make two soups at the same time. Because in a lot of the classes here at the Cancer Support Center, we want you to be able to cook less but eat these very healing foods, right? Which are whole foods. Anything that is one ingredient, that rots, that's healthy, that's loaded with vitamins and minerals and phytonutrients. So she is going to teach us how to make two soups at the same time. And then I'm thrilled that we're going to go ahead and make, let me see if I can find it again, this beautiful, she calls it tie-it-up chicken soup. And it's just marvelous. So most of the time, I'd say 99.9% of the time, we don't cook with animal protein here. But a lot of us, when I do surveys asking the crowd, 99.9% of us eat animal protein. And so I thought it would be great to follow her recipe exact. If you don't want to add the chicken, I don't think that would be a problem. You would add vegetable broth, and then I would probably just dice up some mushrooms. Just dice up the mushrooms, because you know mushrooms are such a nice alternative because they add the meaty, right? Really super meaty and chewy and all that. So this is what we're going to make after we watch her dueling soup show. So we have been busy already and roasting the veggies. So we went ahead and, are we all fans of Brussels sprouts?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes. I hear some oh, yeses. So we're going to talk about all the things we can do with Brussels sprouts, but we're going to go ahead. We took those out of the oven, and then we're so close, I'm going to leave these in. And I'm going to go ahead and turn on the broiler. Can I get this in there? A little tricky. Okay. And what I'm going to do with the broiler, and I don't know if you could find my glasses right there. We're going to go ahead and I just cut up these really, these portobello mushrooms. And so in the world of cancer and cancer prevention, the portobello, any mushroom is great. I'm going to turn this off, but now I'm going to put the broiler on. Hi, okay, broil, perfect. Okay, so what we're going to do, any type of mushroom is super healing, right? It's one of the whole foods. And, but you could do shiitake. I mean, there's so many mushrooms, right? You could do button, which is just a smaller version of portobello. And, but what we're going to do is we're going to add a little bit of olive oil. And now know that these little guys are very absorbent, right? So when we start to add anything to these mushrooms, they really take on that flavor. So we're going to go ahead and add some olive oil to these little guys. They were about this size, and I just went ahead and cut them into quarters. I think mushrooms are so fabulous because you can add them to chili, you can add them chopped up. I mean, if you have leftover any of these roasted vegetables, you could throw a fried egg on, right, and have it in the morning. I actually had that this morning because I had leftover Brussels sprouts. So, and then what I'm going to do is I don't have any teriyaki or soy sauce. Boy, that's hard to say. Soy sauce. So what I'm doing is the liquid aminos. Have you ever worked with liquid aminos? They're a nice alternative. They're a healthier version of soy sauce. And remember, if you get soy sauce, what should we be thinking about? Salt. The salt, right? Try to get low sodium. So anyway, so I've just blended all this together. And I'm just going to add a little bit of, you can have really any kind of salt, but this is kind of just a kind of a sea salt. I'm just going to add a little bit. And then I'm going to put this under the broiler, and I'm going to allow these to cook for a good, will you help me remember? Yes, 10, 15 minutes. Okay, so, hi Cheryl. Okay, so if you look at your harvest bowl handout, let's just talk about that for a minute while we're busy with those mushrooms. Okay, so what's exciting about these harvest bowls is they're a great way to utilize leftovers and prepped ingredients. And that's one way to really cut back on cooking. So let's say you have energy on Sunday afternoon. So you're kind of cutting some mushrooms and you're cutting some cauliflower and broccoli, maybe sweet potatoes, and then you just put it in the kitchen, in the refrigerator. And then maybe on Monday when you have a little bit more energy, now we're going to put some olive oil on there and put that right in the oven, right? And so then once they're roasted, how long can they stay in your fridge for? Approximately about 7 days. Yeah.
Once they're roasted?
Once they're roasted. So anything really has like a 5 to 7 day window. After 7 days, you really need to pitch them, right? So in terms of sanitation, that's something that you want to be mindful of, especially if you're having digestive issues. So such as roasted veggies and proteins leave you feeling more satisfied. You can pile it high with these greens. You can add some dressings. So what's so exciting about this handout is that it allows you to kind of see, you know, I think pictures are worth a million or 1,000, right? However they say that. So if you turn it over, you can see all the variations of the harvest bowl you can write. And I was talking to somebody and they thought harvest bowl sounds so fallish, doesn't it? But you really can do anything seasonal. I think the whole idea of a harvest bowl is putting it in a beautiful bowl and enjoying these amazing vegetables, right? So let's just go a little further here. So base, leafy greens should represent about half of the ingredients in your bowl. Spring mix, romaine, kale, baby spinach, those are some of the classics, right? But if you're feeling more adventurous, start with some arugula. Or you can do dandelion greens. Today we're going to saute kale. So I absolutely love kale because it's a little heartier, right? It doesn't saute down like spinach does. Each green adds its own unique flavor to the dish, okay? Then you go on to the vegetables and the fruit. This handout says have fun, utilize your leftovers. Vegetables and fruits can make any salad colorful, allowing it to be filled with those vitamins, minerals, and phytonutrients. So if you turn it over, pre-roasted vegetables like sweet potato, squash, cauliflower add texture and bulk to the salad. And it just makes it feel like a salad, right? stick to fresh berries versus dried fruits, add sweetness and tartness, right? You can add tomatoes or cold cucumbers or onions. So it's really sky's the limit when you're talking about harvest bowls. And then when we talk about grains, what are your favorite grains out there? Grains. What do you love? Quinoa. Okay, we love the quinoa. What else do we love? Oatmeal. We love that. Couscous. Couscous is wonderful if you're not gluten-free, right? So that's awesome. So in terms of, especially for our quinoa, it's a perfect protein. It's lower in starch and it's high in fiber. So decide, maybe you want to do wild rice. But what's so great about making your grain, I don't know if this would last in the refrigerator up to 7 days, so you have to be mindful. Sometimes they get a little slimy. So what we're going to do is we're going to season this quinoa, and then we're going to go ahead and saute our kale. We've already roasted our cauliflower and our Brussels sprouts. I love sweet potatoes, right, because they add the sweetness, right? It's like nature's candy. And when you are roasting your veggies, if you prefer, you could mix a little bit of the olive oil with sage or with oregano. You could mix a little bit of maple syrup to give it that little bit of sweetness that sometimes we're looking for. So it's wonderful to know that there's such variations. The other thing is if you want to, as soon as you're done roasting this for 25, 30, 40 minutes, depending on how many vegetables you have on your tray, you could put this right under the broiler. Now, something I just learned this weekend. I was away with my daughter, and she broils it for the last 10 minutes, and it gives a lot of that crunch to it. I never even thought to do that. Does anybody roast their veggies and then put it under the broiler? Love that idea. Okay. So, all right, so we've got, whoa. Oh. Whoa.
That's the oil.
That's the oil? Okay. Thank you. Whoa, that's the liquid too.
Yeah.
All right, I'm just gonna, hold on. All right. Are you putting up there just for a second?
Just for a second.
Okay. Scoot that down if you don't mind, if you can. Okay. Let me set this here. Okay. I kind of want to put this in the oven just for one more minute, but I'll just put it down here. All right, so let's not forget the cauliflower, okay? Okay, so what are you thinking about the harvest bowl? Like the concept? Yeah, it really gives us an open door approach on trying to get those 5 or 7 or 9 servings of fruits and vegetables in a day. Yes?
Do you prefer to use like regular kale, or do you ever use the lacinato kale?
Really, whatever's in season, whatever's on sale, right? So let's just talk about the, yeah, I can really smell that. All right, let's just talk about this, this kale for a second. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead. Rebecca Katz taught us last month that we wanna heat our oil just a little bit. And then as soon as we're done, we're gonna go ahead and put our kale in there. But I'm gonna go ahead and cut up a little bit of the garlic. Thank you. And I like cutting garlic because you just smash it. Now these knives are not the best. I think on the Food Network they have really super good knives. Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I'm sure they do. Okay. All right. I think the really important thing about oil is it becomes rancid really super fast on high heat. The minute it starts smoking, now we've taken that oil to the next level, which causes free radical damage, right? So we have to be super careful not to do that. So if that happens to you, I would encourage you to just throw that oil away, right? Just get rid of it. That's why making popcorn or other things that require a high smoke point, maybe use like a coconut oil, right? A grapeseed oil, something with a higher smoke point. And a lot of your chefs really do think it's okay to cook with our olive oil, even though the extra virgin, even though that's delicate. So there's different opinions on that. Are we good with garlic out there? Yes? Okay. The more the better. I love that. Okay. So I'm just going to go ahead and dice it. Some of us like to buy the garlic already chopped, but I feel like if we're chopping it ourselves, we're activating those amazing nutrients and taking advantage of those, right? They're not sitting in a jar somewhere for a week or a month or even longer. So I'm just going to dice up this garlic. It's got all those sulfur compounds along with onions that we want in our diet. So I'm going to go ahead and add this beautiful garlic. I'm just going to cook that for just a second. And I don't know, we didn't find a zester, did we? No. So I'm going to go to Plan B here with my zesting. Okay. And so I'm just going to add a little bit of zest. And really the zest is really what has a lot of the nutrients in it. So if you ever have the chance, just buy one of those cheap little zesters, right? They're just a few dollars. You can find them at TJ Maxx or somewhere. And that's what adds so much flavor. And if you're wanting to buy organic and using the zest, that would be the good time to do it, right? I'm just going to add a little bit of this. What we've learned too in the past is that when we just cook our garlic or our herbs just for a minute, it really brings out all the flavor, right? Those oils are released. So I'm going to go ahead. I went ahead and cleaned this, and I took out the core. Those stems are super bitter. And so I'm just going to add a little bit of this kale, and we're just going to watch it saute down. What I love about sauteed kale is that you could then, like we talked about, add an egg, a gently sunny side up egg if you want, or flipped over. So now you have leftover roasted veggies, you have this beautiful sauteed greens, and you throw that egg on it, great for breakfast, right? Or let's say you have some sauteed greens, you're kind of done with maybe your harvest bowl, but now we throw the rest in our soup. Even if it's really like a Progresso soup, a pre-made soup, or a soup that you're making. And all of a sudden it's like day 3, and you're kind of tired of your soup, but if you throw these greens in, it's going to give it a whole new dimension, right? Okay, so what do we have going here? So we have our greens that we're doing, and we've got, look at some of these. Can I hold on to these? Look at these. Are these gorgeous? Okay, I'm going to set this here because it is hotter than I realized. Okay, yes. Be careful. So all we did was we have the cauliflower, the sweet potatoes. We've got these beautiful Brussels sprouts. We already saw those. Gorgeous. Love, love, love those. And then we've got our mushrooms. And you know, mushrooms really cook down quite a bit. So we've got those as well. All right, so we're sauteing our, if you wouldn't mind helping me, we're going to cut just some of the herbs. And a wonderful way to cut herbs is just to go whoosh, 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 right on your cutting board. So you're kind of just scaling those away from, and then we'll have 2 different dishes. Let's grab a couple of dishes so that. That is a technical term, okay? That is absolutely, right? Okay, lost a little kale. Yeah, absolutely. Now I'm going to add just a little bit more olive oil here. Remember, you want to keep your olive oil in a warm or in a cool, dark place, right? Maybe even in the fridge, but just a cabinet. And you don't want to buy too much olive oil. You want to be able to use it within you know, I'd say 3, 4, 5 weeks, 6 weeks. Don't buy it for the year. We just don't want our olive oil to go rancid. And how do you know it's rancid? Anybody have an idea? It kind of smells like, sometimes nuts and seeds have that real pungent smell. Throw those away. Make sure you're buying your nuts and seeds from a place that goes through its inventory. But before you comment, Donna, not all the time can you smell it. Like a vegetable, well, we don't want to do vegetable oil, but you can't always smell it. So Donna, what were you going to say?
I wasn't going to comment. I was just going to ask you, when you're roasting vegetables, what temperature and how long?
You know what? That is a preference. And so a lot of times I'll do 350 and kind of the slow cook, right? But this time today I did 400. I did 400 degrees for about 45 minutes because I had a lot of veggies. Yeah. I love them when they're really tender, but they're crunchy. That's my favorite, right? And I love the sweet potatoes when they're just sweet. And sometimes the lower the temperature allows the natural sweetness to come out, right? Okay, so we're just waiting for that. I'm having a trouble here with my equipment. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and spice this up a little bit. We have a lot of quinoa, so let me just take out some of this quinoa.
Do you ever use parchment for your veggies?
You can. That's a great way to easy clean up, right? So I do either. I'm just going to go ahead and take some of this out. So we know a lot about quinoa now, don't we? So we know that quinoa is a seed, right? It's not really a grain, it's a seed, and it's a perfect protein, which is kind of, it's a benefit because if you are post-surgery or your cancer is active, we want to eat a lot of good protein at every meal. So we know a lot of good things about quinoa. It seems like it's a little pricey. So if you go to a more of a bulk place and buy a bigger bag, it's a little bit more cost effective. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit of Italian seasoning to my quinoa. Okay, and you can use any Italian seasoning that you'd like. And I'm going to go ahead and use a little bit of turmeric because that's anti-inflammatory and it really is one of those cancer-fighting powerhouses, right? So I'm just going to turn this on for a second. Now, oh my gosh, you know quinoa is very much like white rice or brown rice. It's going to take whatever flavor you're adding to it, right? So if you're not a turmeric fan, cumin, some of those stronger spices, then you could add, of course, just salt and pepper. You can choose the spice of your preference. Look how beautiful this is sauteing down, right? Love it. Okay. And so I'm going to turn this on a little bit. I did see some cumin, and cumin just seems to be one of those spices that a lot of the chefs like to use. So I'm just adding a little bit of cumin. And I'm going to add a little bit of salt. It's very bland. So remember, 75% of our salt intake comes from what types of foods? Processed, right? Anything out of a bag or a box, because that's what keeps the shelf life, right? So by adding a little bit of salt to your cooking, it isn't anything like when we eat anything processed, right? So don't be too nervous about adding a little bit of salt. When we learn from Rebecca Katz, I'm pointing over there because there's a television we're about to watch. She is really big on salt. What did she say last time? Does anybody remember? In terms of the soup and the salt. What?
Salt every section.
Salt every section. So if you're making soup and all of a sudden you add in 4 ingredients, add a little bit of salt. Then you add 4 more ingredients, add a little bit of salt. So what it does is it's almost like that 3D effect. It just brings it alive, right? So, okay. I'm just kind of heating this up just for a moment. I cooked this, all it was it's always 2 cups of water to 1 cup of quinoa. Super easy, and it takes 15 minutes. Yeah. And you know what my fave too is? When you make basic, boring quinoa and you just put it in the refrigerator and it'll last like 4 or 5 days, just grab a big half a cup or cupful, add some nuts and seeds, a drizzle of maple syrup, little almond milk. It makes a great breakfast. So you don't always have to be eating oatmeal or eggs or yogurt. It's a nice alternative. Okay, we're just going to wait another minute on this. Kale is so hearty that you really need to cook it down for a second. All right, let me go ahead and taste this quinoa. All right, so what are your thoughts about this harvest bowl? Are you excited? That's super good.
I don't call them harvest bowls at home because they got,
Your family would get scared
well,
if you called them?
hear the rice bowls or whatever from whatever restaurant that is, or the chicken bowls or whatever from that restaurant. It's like, yes, that's what we're making. And I'll substitute what's on the bottom or put a lot less of what they want.
Okay.
For their starch on the bottom and then just add all the fun stuff, the good stuff, all the color on top.
Okay, love that. Well, it is right. You know, you have to listen to the folks at home and find out what they're willing to eat and maybe take that to the next level for them. I added a little olive oil because when you add a little fat, it gives it texture. And I think that we're always drawn to that. So I'm just adding a little bit more. Hold on, let me turn this off. Okay, so what we're going to do is, I think we're going to set up almost a smorgasbord. So I'd love for you to come up and just take what you want. And I hope that you take a little bit of everything, even if it's just one little piece. And then we'll just put it on our plates. And normally it would be in a bowl, but we're going to use plates today. So it's going to be the harvest plate, okay? Harvest plate. The other thing I just want you to know is we're not doing this today, but you definitely can drizzle some salad dressing on there. So some Italian dressing, you can throw some nuts and seeds on, or you can throw maybe a little bit of feta. You could do a little bit of feta or any kind of cheese that you have just to give it a little bit of that mouthfeel, right? So we're going to go ahead and we'll have it. How about if we start to, yeah, we'll push that out and we'll go ahead, move these back, perfect. And then you create what you would like. Okay, so what we're making today is tie it up chicken soup from Rebecca Katz. So really the main ingredients, I mean, like we said before, we don't work with a lot of chicken, but a lot of our participants eat chicken, so I thought it's in this cancer fighting cookbook, and I thought it would be a nice way to get some of these fresh ingredients. So we're going to go ahead with some chicken broth, and we just added a cup of onions, and so we want to get the olive oil hot and go ahead and saute those onions so they're translucent. Right? We went ahead and added a little bit of ginger. And ginger is one of those wonderful, you want to say spices. It's not really, it's an herb, but it's like in the middle, right? And so you go ahead and always peel it. You buy it fresh, and then you just simply chop it up. And it is wonderful for helping relieve nausea. So in Rebecca Katz's book, you could take a couple of large chunks of ginger with like 6 cups of water and simmer that on your stove for 6 hours, and you'll wind up with kind of a gummy, thick substance. All the liquid has been kind of steeped out of it, and so now you keep it in your refrigerator and just take a tablespoon and put that in maybe a carbonated water and make your own beverage that will help relieve nausea. Okay, it's a wonderful alternative. So we've got our ginger in here. The other thing that we added was some lemongrass. And so you literally can buy a nice tall lemongrass And Kathy shared her great tip of you go ahead and smash the lemongrass. I mean, literally smash it with your knife. And then it just makes it easier to cut. And then we're going to add that to our soup. Okay, so far, we've added our lemongrass and our ginger and our onions, which are amazing cancer-fighting ingredients, right? And we're going to go ahead and add some lime leaves, or I've never bought lime leaves before, but she says go ahead and add a little bit of the lime zest. So we're going to do what we did before, and we're going to just kind of zest it off ourselves. I don't recommend it. Cutting it like this, a little bit more challenging, so buy yourself a zester. But this is fine. And what we're actually going to do is we're actually going to take all of these chunky ingredients out of the soup, okay? So we're going to be taking it out of the soup anyway. All right. And then it's asking us to add our broth. So I went ahead and bought organic chicken broth. And so if it's in your budget to buy organic, Aldi, okay. Great. This was from Waltz, and it was 4 for $2. No, 2 for $4. So again, you can use vegetable broth if you want. You don't have to do the chicken. But whatever the chickens eat and how the chickens are treated is really what we're going to be consuming, right? And you think, why is it how they're treated? You know, they could get upset and they could get anxious and then they could get sick based on the fact that there's millions of them all together. And so now they need an antibiotic, right? So I think our country is moving towards really paying attention to how our animal protein is taken care of, exactly. So I'm just going to add one more of these. Now, Rebecca Katz, in her book, one of her passions is to make her own magic mineral broth, what she calls it. So you can go online and find the recipe, or I can give it to you, or you can find it in this book. But what happens is if you had a pot about twice the size, and she calls for about 15 different vegetables and pure clean water, you simmer it for about 2 to 4 hours, and now you put that broth, you go ahead and take out all the chunky parts, put that beautiful broth in mason jars, and you can keep that in your freezer when you're ready for it, okay? So I'm going to add my chicken broth, but that she has in the book magic mineral broth, which is plant-based, or then she has chicken broth, or then she has beef stock. Right? So depending on what you need or what you like. Why would we even go with the beef stock? Sometimes we're perhaps low on B vitamins.
Well, not just that, but it also for chemo patients helps rebuild the blood cells, the red blood cells.
Okay.
So beef is good for that, yeah.
She's asking us to add a little bit of salt. So do you mind grabbing that salt for us?
What salt is it?
I think it's on the table. Thank you, Adrienne. So I've just added my shallots, my ginger, my lemongrass, my lime leaves, which I just did zest, and a little bit of just a 1/4 teaspoon. Sounds like a lot, but that's probably about a 1/4 teaspoon. So what we're going to do is for about 20 minutes. So we're going to let this steep, and we're actually going to bring this to a boil, and then we're going to let it steep for 20 minutes. And then when we're done, we're going to go ahead and take everything out, all of the solids, and we're going to stir in some coconut milk. And you know, coconut milk, coconut oil is back. Remember, for years we kind of demonized it. We thought it was just more of a saturated fat, which it is, but it's so healing. It doesn't metabolize in our body like a typical saturated fat. So we're going to go ahead and add that with a few extra vegetables. So now while this is cooking, we're going to watch our video, okay? So I'm going to continue on with this Thai soup. And so what I've done is I've added all those great things: shallots, ginger, lemongrass, lime zest, a little bit of salt. Brought it to a boil, simmer 20 minutes. That's what we've done. So we're going to go ahead. Is this too hot? No, good. So what I'm going to do over here is I'm just going to take all the chunks out. Okay? all the chunks out. And then do I have one more? Let's see, I'll use this. Will this be enough? Oh. So all I'm doing is getting all the chunks out. We want it to be a really super creamy soup, right? So we actually don't want the ginger in there. We don't want the lemongrass in there. We just want that beautiful broth. So as I come back, just pour that beautiful broth right back in here. Look how gorgeous. I tell you, she's the one that said culinary hug years ago, and I thought, I've never forgot that. It's true, if you bring a little pot of soup to someone, it is a culinary hug, isn't it? Yes, Kathy.
You put a little soup in a bowl for me
Yes.
before you add the coconut, because I can't have the coconut.
You can't have the coconut. Okay, so I thank you for saying that because we're about to add that. So I'm gonna, if you could help me, I got these Thai rice noodles, okay? And I'm just gonna add it to our water. I don't work with these Thai noodles often, but I know that we've had Chef Marcia here and she's worked with it. So I'm just gonna leave that. She doesn't want this to go to a boil, even though it started off a little bit of a boil. So we are already not following instructions, right, Adrian? So who can pay attention to the clock for 10 minutes? Anybody put a little timer? Thank you. So, and I'm going to just turn this down. So all we're doing is we're just getting these rice noodles a little bit soft. And meanwhile in here, let's see if we have a, all right. I'm just wondering if I can just put, how about if I put a little in a pot? Would that be good? I'll put a little in the pot with some chicken.
That's fine.
Okay, but none of the coconut. Okay. All right, so I'm just going to have a little bit over here. Now I'm going to go ahead and add that, let's see if we have a little spoon. I'm going to add, if you had, sorry that you don't have the recipe in front of you, but now I'm going to go ahead and add the coconut right from the can. And you can see it's a little bit thicker on the top. If you can see, you actually can, it's so interesting, the liquid's on the bottom and the coconut's on the top. So we are going to have, we're going to go ahead and let that simmer a little bit. And then we're going to go ahead with our rice noodles over here. So we're making sure we just have about a few more minutes, right? Okay, just a few more minutes for the rice noodles. And then we're going to go ahead and stir in a little bit of a few of our ingredients. So we're going to add our carrots. And I love to buy them fresh, you guys. I just love, even if you can find them with the tops. And that way you just know that they're super fresh. And they, I think, taste sweeter. Do you notice that? Taste a little bit sweeter. We're going to add just a very, very little bit of cayenne. Is everybody okay with just a little bit of cayenne? I've cooked more with cayenne this year than ever. Well, actually 2019. It just gives everything a little pop. It's such a warming spice, right? And that's exactly what we need in the winter. Okay. All right, so I think, are we getting close to 10 minutes?
You're at 6:58.
Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead in one more minute and go ahead and strain that. All right, so let's see what our temperature is. What did you, when you watch the video on soup making, does it seem super easy? Do you feel like, okay, yeah. Chris, have we made a soup yet? Yes? Yeah, but we're going to, aren't we? Yes. Yes. Yeah. But even, and so you don't have to make a cream soup. You could
probably do it in batches, I suppose. Yeah,
You
that's what they said on video.
yeah.
I've done it with the immersion blender, but not that big of a.
Yeah, you could probably use an immersion blender.
You could. And those are very inexpensive. That's exactly a nice solution, right? I'm going to go ahead and just drain these rice noodles. $16 on sale?
Yeah.
Okay, I love that. All right, so we went ahead. What's so nice about these rice noodles, I don't know if you can see them all cooked, but they're gluten-free, they're super light, but you feel like there's some substance, right? So you're not eating those super heavy noodles. All right, so I'm just gonna go ahead. I would have loved to have put my carrots in there. All right. I'm going to go ahead and put my chicken in there now, and it's going to take about 15 minutes to cook. Oh, I didn't leave any chicken for you. That's all right. Okay. All right. Super important that we don't, don't reinfect any areas. So just, I like, of course, cooking here. I'm going to cook with gloves, but even at home, if you buy a box of these gloves, it's so wonderful if you're cooking and prepping meat, and then you simply take it off, rewash your hands, and you're ready to go, right? Always using a different cutting board, right? When you're cutting meat or working with meat. Any questions or thoughts? No? So all we really did is simmered for about 20 minutes. I went ahead and drained it. I'm adding the chicken now, and I'll probably bring that right to a boil. We're going to go ahead and add our chives, and we're going to add our noodles, and we're ready to go. So it's called tie up soup, and it's going to have that beautiful lemongrass and ginger flavor. What did you like about the video in terms of what she was trying to communicate to you? Is there anything that you learned that you didn't know before? Okay. To put the liquid on the bottom?
Put the spinach in the bowl and then pour the hot soup over it.
Oh, okay. Because it cooks so fast, right?
Yeah.
The spinach cooks so fast?
Spinach in the bowl and then put it up. Because a lot of times I'll put it in and I'm like, oh, this is a little slimy and wilty, you know.
Okay.
It's overcooked then.
Okay. So this is what she says about her tie-up chicken soup. And it was cute at the grocery store. A woman was bagging my groceries, and she's from Thailand. And she goes, I don't think this soup really looked as Thai as maybe some of the soup she is used to. And it was cute. She kind of smiled. And but it says, what's the first thing you think of when someone says, let's get Thai food? Most of my friends have an involuntary response. They start to sweat. Many think that Thai food is hot, hot, hot. Well, maybe not. True, some Thai food can set off smoke detectors, but real Thai cooking emphasizes distinctive flavor combinations regardless of the heat. This soup, a takeoff of traditional Thai Tom Khe Ha Gai, a chicken soup, she says, uses coconut milk, which is very soothing to the nerves. The ginger aids digestion, while the lime brightens up the overall flavor. The result is a soup guaranteed to jumpstart even the most jaded taste buds. And again, this book is really focused on people struggling with some of the cancer treatment. She talks about variation. For extra immune booster, add 1 cup of stemmed and sliced shiitake mushrooms. When you add the chicken. Want to tie it up vegetable style? Use magic mineral broth and add thin strips of tofu in place of the chicken. So there's so many things you can do in terms of, making adjustments to how you and your family would like to eat this soup. Okay, so we are getting so close. We're going to go ahead and add, my chicken is almost done cooking. We're going to give it another, I'd say 5 minutes. And then we'll add our noodles and we'll try it. I just tasted the chicken, totally done. And I'm going to add a little bit of the lime.
Servings, a little packet of cheese, grated cheese,
I'm just adding the lime juice.
onions to put on top, little green onions, and some bacon bits.
Okay.
So it tasted
Oh,
like
that was
this.
so nice of you.
Wow.
potato.
Love that. I'm just going to go ahead and put these in there.
Yeah, it's delicious.
Mm-hmm.
But
Love-
not heavy, it wasn't a heavy
It wasn't
cream
heavy
soup
at
at all.
all.
Just going to taste this. It's really interesting. And that's a good term. If we need more bread, we can have it. So how about if I go ahead and serve us up?
By the way, that bread was good.
The bread was really good, both from Waltz. And
Was that from the daily?
so this is more of a whole grain. That one was which one?
Honey.
Like a honey. So if we need a little bit more, and if you, later you can look at the recipe, but let me just go ahead and serve this up again. I think the noodles are a little bit hard to navigate, but we'll just make it happen. Do you mind if Adrienne just brings it by for you, right? And does everybody have a spoon? Okay. A couple more spoons. Okay. A little tricky.
It's slippery.
Yeah. I'm trying to get some of the noodles.